guys, welcome back to the Joey Plays Games podcast. This is the special episode devoted to Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder Cut, or the only Justice League version that should actually exist, whichever one you would prefer.
Nick prefers the first one.
I'm here.
I'm kidding.
I'm here with my normal co-host, my brother Nicholas, my best friends Ronnie and Owen, and we're here to break it down for you. We're here to discuss this four-hour long movie, and let me tell you, we got some thoughts. So I want to get into it, and I want to start with the base level. Where are we at? How many times have you watched the movie, and where are your opinions at? Let's start with Owen.
Well, I've only watched it once, but I watched the first one. First one is hot garbage. The only reason that gets like a 2 out of 10 in my book is that, effects looked, but this one is like a solid, I'd say like a 7 around then, maybe a little lower, maybe a little more. Okay,
I can see that. Ronnie, what do you think?
It's passing.
I really liked it. I watched it once. I want to watch it again. But prior to the movie, I'd never actually seen the first one, like the the Justice League, as some may call it.
Yes, Justice League.
And thank God I didn't, bro. After I watched this one, I went to skim through that a little bit to see what that was like, and I wouldn't want to watch that whole movie. I'd rather watch 4 hours of this than 2 hours of that. So yeah, for me, in my opinion, if I gave like a rough rating right now, I'd say like 8 out of 10, 8.1 around there. Oh, Nick's about to shit on my opinion. All right,
Nick, give it to us. Where do you rate with this movie after your first viewing?
It's an okay movie. That's
all you got.
It's an okay movie.
All right.
It's nothing that I ran over.
Well, I've watched it twice. First time I watched it was Thursday, and then I watched it again last night, which was Saturday. I improved more on it the second time watching, so I think I'm probably floating. My original reaction was somewhere between a 7.5 and a 7.9. I would say I'm somewhere between 7.8 to 8.4. Like, it's not. We're really close. It's not perfect,
it's a
but
B-.
It's really good. It's a different grading skill than that, but sure. All right, I think it's best to discuss this movie by going through. How do we think the best way to discuss this movie is? Is it via plot? Is it breaking down characters? What do we think? Because I think personally it's going through the characters, but we can go plot by plot, or plot beat by plot beat if we would like.
I think let's start with the characters and then make our way into the plot.
Yeah.
And then whatever other discussion we have can go up later.
Okay. So let's start with Cyborg. Cyborg is arguably the most improved character from the original cut. In my opinion, he's up there with Steppenwolf.
It's an actual character now.
Yes. So
Plot device.
Yes. If anyone remembers Owen's comments 2 weeks ago, he thought it was just a plot device, and he wanted him to say booyah. So Owen, where are you at now after watching this 4-hour cut?
Oh, there was no booyah, so automatic, terrible movies. Cyborg. I still don't like how he looks in it. He looks way too creepy for his character.
I can see that.
I think the movie in general was like, the whole DC universe looks way too dark in these more recent live action, just like a tad too much. But he was like an actual character now. Thank God. I actually felt like he had some bit of growth. I mean, while it's not I still think it wasn't done super well, but it's this,
Mm-hmm. Nick, that when talking after we finished watching it last night, you came out very highly of Cyborg after being really lukewarm toward the middle of the film. So
yeah,
what do you think?
It's not like I don't. It's not. It's not that in general. It's not that I don't like the movie, but it's not something I'm gonna rant and rave home about, and that's because of how of what I want from movies. But taking for the movie of what it is, and what we were to experience it as what Zack wanted it to be. I can see what he was trying to do with Cyborg, and I think it was a really not having those beats for Cyborg in the previous movie definitely was a detriment to his character, and including them definitely creates more ties to him. So I think that he definitely had an improvement with what we were seeing shown.
Ronnie?
Cyborg, dude. Cyborg took the show for me. Like, at first I wasn't going in. I wasn't sure how much of his character would really get all that screen time, knowing how little he got in the first version. But seeing his character growth and seeing how we went from this kind of not misunderstood, but he kind of this movie just feels like it's him finding his place. And I feel like that's a story that not a lot of superhero movies have gone into, about where at least recently, not a lot of superhero movies have gone into where you don't want to be this hero thing, or you don't really know what you're capable of, and you're kind of ashamed of what you are. And seeing Cyborg kind of go through those motions, especially being expected to join this league of such high-ranking heroes, just was an intricate story that I feel like kind of just took my breath away in the ways that the movie portrayed his character. Alongside his acting was very well done. I really felt the emotions that the character felt and how he was supposed to play that out, and I feel like that was done very well, and elicited a lot of emotion that I don't feel like I get from any superhero movies or classic blockbuster superhero movies. So yeah, I just loved his character overall. I'm glad we got to see a deeper side of his story, and just kind of got to see his character be fleshed out in the big screen per se, in terms of relevance. But yeah, I just love his character a lot, and the movie did him justice.
Yeah, I think Cyborg is hands down one of the best parts of this movie. I think the story is handled with a lot of care. In Justice League, he came across as very much being moody, and I think this gives a reason to why he's moody, and it doesn't come across as just this angry. And it's so funny to me because I was thinking about this. He's supposed to look like he's in his teens, right? Or is that just me? Because he's supposed to be in college playing football.
Yeah.
So I guess he would be around.
Well, I mean, like a year or two after high school.
True.
I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I would have thought he was a sophomore.
He was in high school when he was doing it, right?
His backstory changes.
Yeah,
I guess college.
He was in college.
What we were shown,
playing
he was college age.
Wisconsin, in wherever stadium.
Gotham City University.
Okay.
I don't know. I was just thinking Ray Fisher does not look like he is a teenager, but he doesn't look like he's a couple years older than me either. But that's neither here nor there.
Everyone who plays football in college doesn't look like a fucking teenager, so I mean.
True. I really enjoyed seeing his progression throughout the movie and him coming to terms with his powers and then embracing them and coming to terms with him being without the family that he grew up with, even though it wasn't the family that he wanted, and then kind of adopting this new family. It felt right to me. It didn't feel shoehorned in. It felt authentic to the character and authentic to the universe. I think, Owen's made a really valid point with how the DC universe is very gray and dark, and not a whole lot of flashiness has gone on in it. And for me, at least while I was watching the first and second time, I think for me I look at Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, and those are dark on purpose because it's supposed to be Superman is not yet Superman. This is his first outing, and he really kind of did a really bad job. Half of Metropolis gets torn up. Batman is coming out of the darkness of Robin dying, and that he's still in Batman vs Superman, which is why he's so anti Clark. But then you get to Justice League, and a lot of the movie is still grayed out, and I'll give that to you. But toward the end of the movie, I think a lot of color starts coming in, because that's when we see these heroes coming together as a team, and they now are the versions of the characters that we see from the comic books in the animated series to a certain extent. They're not all the way there, but I think it's a lot more than what we had gotten beforehand. I don't know where else to go with that one. Does anybody have a character? Or you seem to have a point you want to.
I don't see that though.
You don't? Okay.
Because what we get at the end of the movie completely takes any way.
What do you mean? Are we talking? You
The
talking the nightmare
epilogue.
sequence?
Yeah, the epilogue takes away any of the life color that you.
The nightmare?
Yes.
No, I don't
I
understand that.
I don't see that taken away from it.
How
Sure,
how
it's
is
like a
there life
projected-
and color in a desolate world where Superman is now evil and killing everybody?
I mean, did you
I
see
mean,
the
that's a
colors
projection
on
for
his
where-
suit?
Where they go.
That was bright red and bright blue.
That's true.
Okay, so
I mean, Joker's costume isn't as washed out as other ones. But I mean, I'm more thinking the end of the movie as when Martian Manhunter shows up. And look at all
I'm
the
thinking
color
more
there.
like in terms of
I'll give
color,
you that,
Joe,
but
I'm
then are we
thinking
not
like-
supposed? Are we taking the epilogue as a separate thing then?
I mean, in the same way that I don't judge.
I will give you. Go.
I was just gonna say, in the same way that I don't judge a full movie based on their end credit scene, I wouldn't really tack on. I understand the epilogue is technically in the movie, but I saw that more as just a projection of where that new Justice League would have gone, not something that reflects the movie we just saw necessarily. Sure, it has that like, it's the perceived consequence of what has just happened, but when I think of the ending that Joe described, I'm thinking about when they finished the battle and united for the first time in the movie. They're all standing side by side, looking off into the sunset, with all their colors glistening in the sun, which I feel gave a very iconic Justice League look, where they're all standing in unison, staring off into some kind of bright light.
I mean, even after that, I think while they're all going through their own separate things, Bruce and Clark buying back the house, it's not MCU bright colors, but we were never going to get Zack Snyder giving you an MCU color thing. I think it's still kind of muted, but it's not like
It doesn't feel gloom.
it doesn't feel gloomy either.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I think of then when you see Clark and
wanna go
Diana
off on,
going into Wayne Manor to
character
talk
design.
about setting up the Justice League table, that's not dark to me. Diana staring off at the Temple of the Amazons into the distance, looking for Themyscira, that's not really dark to me. That still has a really colorful background.
It feels like it's very hopeful, and I feel like that's what a lot of these movies try to capture, that hope that Superman gives. A lot of this story that we saw in Justice League was Batman trying to do this for Superman of his death, like from his death. He's not putting the team together because out of the cut he's like, oh yeah, we should just have a team for funsies. No, it's kind of like he wants to do this in honor of Superman, for that hope that he learned that he was trying to bring to the world. Which I think is where we see that development with Batman's character over the course of BVS and this movie.
Nick,
I mean, you
does
can
not
say,
agree.
you can say, tell me where, how you
mean,
can disagree with
You
that.
want to talk about character?
I just want to.
With what we've seen with Henry Cavill's Superman, what hope has he given? In that first movie, he was hated by everyone. Where was the support for him? He did not seem to be having like.
That's his first time out. I mean, I don't think he was hated.
Yeah.
I don't think he was hated by
wasn't hated.
everyone.
I don't think
He definitely
he was
stayed
hated until
alive.
after the.
Okay,
I think
it
it was
just
more
after he
if
was
you,
killed,
If you
yeah.
want to say he was hated, I would say Batman versus Superman. I could see the argument there, but then there's also an equal argument on the other side of the coin.
That dude. Like,
I don't know.
And then Man of Steel, there's no public reaction to him yet. This is his first time out, and he's not doing a great job, which is why then
how
in
does
BVS you get a
how
split
does
reaction.
that instill hope? That's what
I think the hope comes from his sacrifice.
And from him trying to continue to fight for what's good, or for what he tries to be good, even if people don't necessarily see him as that.
Okay. Yeah,
Nick wants Superman to be Captain America, my guy. It's like, no.
Why should he not be?
No. I think they're two different characters. I mean, yes, they have very similar tones in how they're portrayed in the comics. They can be foils of one another, but at the end of the day,
red and blue, same character.
I I wouldn't use them as foil characters, but okay.
Not foil. Maybe I misused the term, but
It's really not that big of a deal. Like, I don't know. The
Good
Superman,
characters,
I don't know.
like good
I'm
guy.
not going to die on this hill. This is what I took from the movie.
Stereotypical perfect character, yeah.
Okay, so next character I want to talk about would probably. Do we want to talk Barry and Aquaman? Because I feel like you can kind of wrap these two in conversation together, or no?
sure, I guess.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
mean,
let's go. I feel like we should just focus on one, just so it's clear what we're
Okay.
saying about one, because I feel like they can have some division. But
Okay,
Go on.
let's start with
Let's go with Flash.
yeah, with Flash. I have some very
I
mixed
mean-
mixed feelings on Flash.
Same.
Okay, Owen, tell us what you got.
I mean, he's more of a character than he was in the original cut, but like still kind of luster, I guess. I mean, he's very. I feel like they just didn't do too much with him, and he just seemed kind of thrown in a way. Because I mean, literally the only thing he does like twice in the movie is make electricity.
I mean, I can
That's
see.
his only two uses.
I can
It's
see
like,
that.
I mean,
I could argue the other side.
Yeah,
of
but
it too.
in each side of that, I feel like, in my opinion, it was for very catastrophic causes.
Like, he was the only
Quintessential
one.
cause. Yeah, he's the only one that could have gotten the movie where it was with his abilities.
Ronnie,
yeah,
what do you
but,
think
I
about
don't know,
him?
I just-
Did you seem to be?
with
Or sorry,
how-
Owen. Finish up. My bad.
Finish up on.
how better Cyborg was,
Yeah,
it kind of
they're
makes
not comparable.
him seem worse. So I mean,
Yeah, I would agree. Ronnie, what did you think about Barry Allen? And
So from
Ezra.
what I was able to clip from the Justice League version, from whatever I skimmed through his scenes, I feel like Joss Whedon really used him as that. Like, he really solidified the idea that Flash is the comedy relief in that movie. Whereas in this one, while he still is that comedy relief, and that's very evident throughout the film, I feel like at least he was given more so he can understand, at least to some extent, where he's coming from. I agree with you that he was definitely not given surmountable enough compared to the other heroes in this movie, so he's probably one of the weaker in terms of backstory and kind of motive and stuff like that. But for what the character is and for what we saw him being able to do, I feel like this is something that just stirs excitement for what's to come with his character, not necessarily for what was in this movie. Because even then, he still did a lot of really great feats that I'd love to see Flash do, like tapping into the Speed Force or just kind of, running real fast to save people. That's what he is. So the thing I feel like I know that you're going to attack on that I can agree with is that kind of personality he's exuding as Barry Allen, and I feel like that is very different from what we're used to seeing as Barry Allen. But it's just not something I didn't really mind it as much, just because I feel like I kind of get where Zack Snyder is trying to take this character or the direction he's taking it in for this movie. I saw him almost kind of like in the same way that Iron Man brought Spider-Man just as extra backup during Civil War. Batman is just asking Flash to be here, just have another superpowered being help him out.
I can see that. Do you want
I
to?
guess.
Do you want to say your thoughts, or would you like me to
Hey,
soften the blow first?
Y'all make me out to be the villain, but alright, you can go.
Oh my! Okay.
Next, the guy that gets down on one knee and says "For Darkseid." No, I'm just kidding.
For me,
That hurts.
I'm joking, Nick.
Barry Allen is split between two things. I think he's two different characters. Not exactly two different characters, but there's almost two different Barrys in the movie. You get to see Barry before he meets the League, and it's really the awkwardness in that original scene when he saves Iris is really creepy to me. Like, the interaction he has with the dog walker thing, that's fine. But when he does the hairbrush out of her face while it was ready to catch her, and then he grabs the hot dog, like, what? Why? And the entire thing's in slow-mo with weird music playing, which I just don't agree with.
Well, he's a nerd. He's awkward, weird. That's what nerds are.
I can agree with you on the hairbrush. That was a little weird.
It's not a little weird. That is, like, borderline creepy.
No, yeah. But what I'm saying is the hot dog, I saw that as just like, throw in that comic relief for like Flash, like, oh, here he's admiring the girl, and it's like, oh, hot dog. This is for the dogs, because that's what he's gonna go in. That's gonna be his cover Right after he gets out of
I mean, I think the hot dog arguably saves that scene.
yeah.
Because if the hot dog is not there and you don't get that the interaction with him feeding the dogs afterward, that scene makes Flash a creeper. But
no, yeah.
I think Ronnie made a great point about the Speed Force. I think this is one of the coolest interpretations of the Speed Force I have ever seen, and I think I would never have expected that this movie would have pulled it out as early as it did, and arguably he saves the universe.
Yeah, he does.
What do you mean?
As early as
I meant in context to the universe that he doesn't have his own Flash movie. He's instead pulling it out in his first time out.
Okay.
In
I'll give you that.
Justice League. And that he already had rules kind of around it, that he could already tell that there's something going on here that can cause some problems. So
I also like about that Speed Force thing real quick, just kind of how he understands the repercussions that it could bring if he taps into it too much, and how he has that rule for himself. Because I feel like he understands to some degree like how powerful he can be if he so chooses, and is purposefully limiting himself in these cases if he can, so that he doesn't do anything that could cause any kind of destruction. I feel like that's a kind of lead up to what we will see in Flash the movie.
Yeah,
seeing as that's apparently going to deal with that in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully.
Who knows? Yeah, I think Barry gets better towards the middle and back half of the film. I think he's got some cool interactions with Cyborg that are, in my opinion, they're a little better than the ones in the theatrical cut of Justice League. And for me, it makes sense because originally it was the movie in between Justice League and Justice League 2 there was supposed to be a Flash and Cyborg team-up movie. So I think they were trying to set up a little bit of a dynamic duo going on there. And I like Billy Crudup as his dad, and unfortunately we don't get to see him in the Flash movie. So I don't know. I think he's a mixed bag of character. I almost feel similarly about him that I do Batman. But lay on us what your thoughts are, Nicholas, on the Flash.
All right, Nick, break my heart, Nick. Break my heart.
No, I think I'm
pretty on par with him and Owen. Of I don't remember a significant punch he threw in the entire movie. He was dodging the entirety of the movie.
I mean, he pushed that one parademon really hard.
Okay, I'll give you that. But it never seemed purposeful. He's like, get away from me. And then, but I think at the rate of speed he's going, of course, his push is going to result in that. But it's never
but I feel like we've shown that he knows that. He knows that's going to do damage because in the way that when he saved Iris, he purposefully crossed her arms for that backlash and lightly tapped her so she would gently fall to where he's at. He knows that his push can do damage, which is why he does that with the parademon.
Wait, I thought that was the unique part to that Iris scene that I was like, I'm okay with this of the slow moving, that part of the slow mo I was okay with because it seemed to have
Quicksilver.
Yeah.
With Quicksilver though, Quicksilver would grab objects and literally just real time move it to different places. Don't get me wrong, Quicksilver's scene is cool and great, but when we're looking, are we talking about X-Men Quicksilver? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, Barry did the same thing. He grabbed the hot dog. He moved in.
But I'm talking about
literally the same kind of scenes.
I'm talking about in the ways that, let's say, when Quicksilver would grab someone's arm and move it into a certain position to go in a certain projection, that was kind of just done in more his real time. Whereas with Flash, I feel like we're trying to see a more accurate portrayal of how the speed would work if it was, realized. Where it's true, if he's gonna touch someone that fast, it's gonna cause a lot of momentum and it could snap someone's neck. So that's one thing I did appreciate about it.
Let me touch on his super speed, dude. I did not like how they made it look. It's he's supposed to be so fast, but they make him look so slow, and I did not like that. It's it was weird.
I think
with the slow mo one.
I think that's more of an effect of the slow mo than it is his speed.
Yeah, I think that's just...
I know, it's just like he's supposed to be like the fastest person on Earth. But like the way they did the slow-mo for it makes it look so...
I feel like...
I had a lot of problems with the slow-mo, to be honest.
The first time going in, I didn't really notice it that much. It wasn't until after I saw people
lightning.
mentioning
Too much fucking lightning, dude. Like,
it wasn't until after the point that the lightning... It wasn't until after the people I saw people like criticizing for that I kind of thought about it. I'm like, yeah, there probably is a lot of slow-mo. But as something that I like that at least keeps me entertained, I thought it was just cool. Just kind of, especially like the way we saw the slow-mo of his shoes breaking because of like, the friction of his speed and kind of seeing how he breaks the glass. I feel like it just shows us.
First scene. In that scene, it works. Every other time they do it, it's shit.
No, I would say the Speed Force at the end works.
I feel like when it's used with Flash, it works.
I guess, but it's still kind of weird for me. It was like
the only one where I think I could argue is like, was it necessary? Is when we saw him slow-mo run to save Diana's sword the whole way through. I feel like we could have sped through until he touched it. Until he actually touched the sword, that's like where you can go slow-mo. But for the whole
they spend more time with him in slow-mo than him actually being fast, and it's just so weird.
Yeah, I feel like that was just the Zack's way of being like, you're either going to have this really blurry thing going in the background, so how do you do that? You then slow time down to make him like
just to show relatively how fast he is compared to everything else.
I mean, Flash is the only one I understand the slow-mo for. The other ones, I think there was a lot of slow-mo that I'm like, really? Why?
I feel like even then, though, one notable scene that we don't see Flash in slow-mo that I feel like stood out to me, maybe it wasn't for you guys because it was like quick, but I just kept seeing it used in examples for like fandom talking, because like I'll see like people make edits for the movie, or like I'll see people like talk about it, and one thing that stood out to me was that scene where he's going really fast to save the people from the debris after he's pulled people out of the like Darkseid's place in Strikers Island. He saves everyone by going around all the rocks and kind of like pushing them out the way and stuff. And in that scene, we don't see him in slow-mo. He was in speed. And you just kind of saw that electrical burr going around and saving them.
Forgot about that.
I mean,
how much the slow-mo makes you forget about the actual looking for.
You know how boring that would have been, though, if that was in slow-mo?
Yeah, it would have.
Like, I mean, you're gonna see him pick up rocks and throw rocks. Like, I don't think anybody really wanted to see that.
I don't know if he was throwing rocks or like just pushing them out.
I was not clear on that either. I think you were making a good point about the fighting, but it was like, I think Zack, in my opinion, this is Zack's worst fight choreography movie. I think BVS and Man of Steel have both better fight choreography.
I can agree with that.
And even Wonder Woman, I think, is better fight choreography than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons.
Because
Wonder Woman's like actually a good DC movie though, so.
Okay, well, sure.
Don't say that.
This is.
They'll get angry.
Wonder Woman is better than this.
Oh, don't say that. Nick hates all of them. Come on. Chill. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Nick. I'm kidding.
Nick's about to walk away at some point.
I take him on the chin.
No, I feel like the fight choreography in this he was trying to balance so many story elements that the underwater fight scenes, most of them did not look great.
Yeah, that's probably the ones that I actually kind of liked a little bit. With Mira, at least.
Mira, I had a lot of hope for. And I think the two ways he used her
British accent out of nowhere.
You mean at the end?
Yes. Where did that accent come from?
Oh, that's just because it was a reshoot, I think. Yeah. It was part of the reshoots. So who knows what she was doing.
Stealing Johnny Depp's money.
Did she spend some time in England during
I think she's from England.
Time?
I'm sure she was. I think she was probably in England due to the trial with her ex-husband.
Moving on.
Oh no, I was talking about like the character.
Oh well, yeah, I was talking about
bullshit reason she was in England. That's it.
Maybe we'll see her in the John Constantine HBO Max show.
Apparently, he and Zatanna are a thing in the comics, and I had no idea until I watched the recent animated movie. Constantine and Zatanna are a thing, and I had no idea. But I'm all for it now.
I feel like I've seen them on and off sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's her as Zatanna. You have more connection between Zatanna dick because of Young Justice.
Yeah, but they only kissed once, and you never hear him talk about it again.
Okay, but
it's so sad that I know that.
But like there's like
Young
comics
Justice
and
is
stuff
probably the best DC thing.
One of the best. One of the best. Have you watched season 3, Owen?
I watched it illegally.
Okay.
Next about it. Joey's.
We didn't need to talk about that. But you could have just said yes.
Yes, I did. It was great.
So
Next season's gonna be awesome.
it will be. It will be indeed awesome. I think probably the next. Do we want to talk about Aquaman? Because I feel like we can all probably agree he's the weakest part of this movie.
I can talk about him in shorthand. I have some thoughts on it.
Okay.
Well,
You've never seen Aquaman, so actually you are probably the best one to talk about this. Just give your thoughts and we'll move on.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, just quick comparison from what I saw in Justice League versus now. It seemed like he had no real reason to be there in Justice League. Kind of like he just kind of came in out the clutch. Kind of like in the same way that Owen deemed Cyborg in the original to be kind of just like a plot device in the same way. Kind of just a plot device in the first iteration of the movie. But in this one, I feel like I was able to actually kind of understand why he's there. He clearly doesn't want to be there. He stated that already multiple times to Batman.
Strong man is strongest alone.
Yeah, and that's not how the saying goes. And I think they pointed that out in the movie. Or if they didn't, maybe I'm not. But what's it called? Yeah, I kind of like that hesitation to be a part of the team because I feel like it shows how strong they are when they're together. Because it's something that he didn't want to partake in, but when he finally chooses to, because of how Atlantis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seeing how that was brought into it with the stealing of their mother box. That's kind of like his motive to kind of get into this battle that he originally did not want to be a part of. And I feel like that's kind of us seeing him take on that kind of responsibility that he's been denying this whole time. In the same way that Cyborg has, obviously to a lesser degree, but it's there. And I think that's something I appreciate about his character. I think, almost before I forget, one thing I really liked was how Flash, when Cyborg's dad dies, he looked concerned. He looks genuinely concerned for Cyborg's well-being and his mental health. And in that moment, Flash is like, "Oh, I thought you didn't care," and he makes it clear, like, "I never said I didn't care," you know. And I feel like that was pretty telling of his attitudes towards the team. It's not that he doesn't care about them; it's just that maybe at first he was hesitant to join something like that.
Yeah. I feel like, and that's how it's not even worth saying. Let's talk about Wonder Woman and the Amazons. What do we think? Because I thought she was pretty badass in this, to be honest.
I liked her.
She wasn't not badass.
I liked her.
Nick, what did you think? You seem to be deep in thought.
I'm gonna be honest. I know the acceleration, deceleration for her fighting that we saw in the original Wonder Woman, I enjoyed, but watching it in this movie, it didn't.
You mean that intro thing?
Yeah, that did not look
Like
right.
I really liked that.
I liked it a lot.
The idea that the scene,
It was
okay
the only
with.
time it was used.
I think she had the best
it was
fights.
used more.
Yeah,
Anytime
she looked
had-
in my
She
opinion.
didn't use it. She didn't really use
anytime
it
she
as a
fought,
character.
it seemed like that something with her movements just seemed off to me.
Yeah, I think the later times it's slowed.
Okay.
So the first time we see her, it's sped up. And
Yeah,
then
so
slowed
I
down
don't
at
know. It
points,
just
and then the later times she's in
her
slow-mo.
actions seemed, her fighting just seemed, her movement just seemed weird to me. But everything else, she's charismatic, and she just seems, her character seems to be really defined. Even if, if you don't take Wonder Woman in this consideration, it still seems like, I don't know, it doesn't, no inconsistencies seem to pop up. It just seems
Authentic.
Yeah. She seems to be.
Aquaman's the opposite, in my opinion.
Exactly. She's best girl, dude. You know, she's the only girl in the movie, but still best girl.
Mira's there. Mira's there.
We got Lois.
Can't forget Mira. And Lois.
Yeah, Lois.
Lois. And Martha Kent. Okay. We talked
I
about
guess
Wonder Woman.
Martian Manhunter could be considered best girl because he was a girl for a bit of it.
Okay, I think that's a great segue. Let's talk about Martian Manhunter and the two scenes we see him in. Ronnie, I want your takeaway on this first, because I'm wondering if you were like me when you watched this the first time. Because we never really talked about this.
I didn't know he was going to be in it. Apparently, there was some news to be aware that he was going to be in it. So
I thought I mentioned it too, but
you probably mentioned it. But every rumor you mentioned, at some point, I just stopped thinking about it.
Yep.
So yeah, like I'll talk about it. I'll give my opinion, and then I forget that rumor was there in the first place. So I kind of went into this just being like, okay, I'm just going to see the main heroes. And even with the Green Lantern thing, which we can get into later, like I said, I wasn't really expecting it to be there. Like I didn't think that as much things that were in this were gonna be in here. And so Nick wishes that Green Lantern was eviscerated far more than he was in that movie. But what's it called? Yeah, I was really shocked by it. I just thought it was really cool seeing his costume, seeing his design for the movie. It kind of like in that moment I was like, wow, like I can't believe I just saw that. Like that's Martian Manhunter. I didn't expect to see him here. And I also liked the way that he was tied back to Man of Steel with the director.
Colonel Lennox.
Yeah, Colonel Lennox.
Oh, and
so,
do you
yeah,
have any?
I just thought it was funny how he chose that this was. He thought that this wasn't really a good enough fight to be a part of. That's the only criticism I guess I have for it. I just thought it was funny, but I feel like we've said the same for so many other superhero movies where it's like, is this not an Avengers level threat kind of thing? But
yeah,
that's how superhero movies go.
Okay.
I think it's. Yeah,
he wasn't in the original cut, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, yeah, what Ronnie pointed out, it's like, why the fuck was he not fighting with them already?
Yeah, that's why I got. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
It's like that was weird, but like I mean, otherwise, I mean, it was cool that it was there. Same with the Green Lantern thing. I don't remember that being in the original cut either, or maybe it was, or
the history scene he was in. The history scene he was in
wasn't okay.
I think. I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched that, or forced myself to watch it. Martian Manhunter. It was really cool because I was sitting here Thursday night after taking a midterm that I failed, and then I'm sitting here and I'm like, I saw the picture of Diane Lane with the red eyes, and I was like, why does she have red eyes? What is the context? And then I see the red eyes, and I'm going, wait a minute, I'm putting two and two together, and then I see him slowly transform, and I think for some reason, I think the scene he's at the end looks cooler than he does in the hallway, but that may just be a lighting thing, and I don't know why, but it just looked weird. I also think he should have been used in the battle. It was really weird to me. Why? Like, he was just oddly placed. It was like he was playing this, like, watcher type role where it's like, oh, I need to push Lois Lane to get back outside, and then I'm not going to do anything until after the battle is won, and then I'm going to go talk to Bruce. And I'm like, I feel like you probably could have, helped fight, and maybe there wouldn't have been a problem with Flash having to use the Speed Force, but, that's beside the point. Okay, I think probably... Superman? Do we want to talk Superman?
Like it, Joey.
What? Say that again, Owen?
You mean plotdevice.com?
Yes. He did serve a really weird plot role. Nick and I had talked about that.
Get Lois to come out.
Yeah. Owen's trying so hard not to
useless space with Peter Griffin.
I think Joe, what's it called? The whole thing you mentioned with the hallway thing. I don't know if it's the lighting for his clock. Like, I think he still looked somewhat the same. I think it's just the perspective of where we're seeing him. Like, just to see this alien dude like in a random apartment staircase versus.
It had to have been the lighting. It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was super hyped to see him in it, but I think it was underused.
No, yeah, same.
But then I think you probably have to think about the budget of like. Now we have now 2 CGI characters we have to completely animate. That you have to animate Cyborg and him, even though Cyborg is largely standing still. But then you have to animate a character flying around punching stuff. So, I think it's probably why he wasn't used. But I'm a big fan of Martian Manhunter. I will never not be a huge fan of Martian Manhunter.
I only remember Superman punching Steppenwolf at the end of the fight. Just repeatedly. That's all he did.
That was funny as hell. Like,
he comes in, he's like
it's just so funny. Yeah, just seeing the contradiction of like how hard it was for like the rest of the team to kind of take on Steppenwolf all together, and then just have Superman standing over him, repeatedly just punching him once, lasering him, punching him again. He's just on the ground, helpless.
Could you tell how hyped I was for that scene? Yeah, Nick sat behind me while watching that, and then a second, like, I'm sure my head was giving away things because I remembered the beats of it, and then as soon as he comes in, I'm starting to move my head.
You were quite literally like singing the music to yourself.
Yeah.
You were singing the music to yourself. I was like, how do you already know the beats of the music when you watched it once?
What's the Man of Steel theme? You can't.
No, but not even that. Just like the rock scene, like the rock music. Whenever that came in, you were already singing it before it started.
It's the same Man of Steel theme. It is. It's Flight for Man of Steel.
Ooh, Joey out here with the facts. Nick is perplexed.
I will never not. Anytime Hans Zimmer's
Man I think Owen can appreciate someone memorizing a theme song.
When he's ready to fly, right?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Like the Batman fight scenes with the Rock going on, or like them in Russia.
I'm just bouncing.
Yeah, you were already doing it before it even started. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, I know you're gonna do the dun dun, the rocks floating. I know that. I was talking about like rock music. Okay, that's where the disconnect was.
There's nothing wrong with that. I do that every time I fucking watch anime, dude.
Yeah, no, Owen gets himself hyped when he's playing Warzone. He's watching anime intros.
Wasn't even.
Background.
Yeah,
it's great.
I'm not saying there was nothing wrong with it. I found it funny.
Hype music, dude.
But okay, Owen,
that's like the majority of what I listen to.
An entire season of anime where you like entire arcs where you get to listen to the OPs. This was after one viewing of it. He was already knew the beats of where, like, the drums kicked in, or you get the guitar.
The same music from Man of Steel, then that makes sense.
He's not talking about that. He's talking about like the genre rock music toward the end,
rock and roll
fight
music,
scene. Like
in the end fight scene.
This is
never mind. Why are we talking about the music? The music in this was.
Joey shows excitement during a scene. -1 point off to the score for Justice League.
I don't know.
Anytime Joey like smiles,
yeah.
Points, dude.
Any kind of enjoyment Joey showed towards the movie while Nick watched, Nick took off a point right there. That's on you, Joe. That's not on Nick.
Yeah, it is.
No.
I'm sure. I probably the same way he ruined my experience the first time without even meaning to. I ruined his experience.
I was dead asleep when you watched it the first time.
Yes, but you were in my head. There's a difference. Okay, so do we want to talk about Superman and Batman? Because I have thoughts, but we don't really have to. We can move on to something else.
I think we should. Might as well. Just a quick. Let's just hear what your thoughts are.
Okay, Superman.
They felt the same as the last movie.
I disagree. Superman, I think it feels in line with what we had beforehand, but it feels like he's finally coming around and being hopeful, which is what being really hopeful, like exuding that hopeful thing.
Like he's
so only now he's being hopeful, and now we should be expected that he's instilled hope in everyone else when before he wasn't hopeful.
He was always a symbol of hope.
He was punching hope into Steppenwolf.
But now this time he doesn't want to hurt Batman.
It's the power of hope.
He never wanted to hurt.
Yes, he did. He ripped the doors off the Batmobile. He said, "Stay out of my city." And then Batman goes, "Do you bleed?" Like, you will.
I don't remember the movie. I'm gonna be honest.
And then Superman says, "What are we? Some kind of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice?" No, I'm just kidding.
I think
if you think about it, most characters in fucking DC can rip fucking doors off of the Batmobile or some shit, dude. Like, come on, it's a car.
True.
Car.
It should be costing analysis for how much money.
The only one who can't do it is Batman, and then maybe like Green Arrow, but that's because they're just
people,
normal dudes. One has a bow and arrow, and one has a grappling hook. That's about it. I'm a big fan of Batman or Superman.
Okay, well, Owen's made his points really clear.
Like, not just in the movie, but just in general.
I enjoyed the Clark and Lois scenes back on the farm. I thought they were really good and looked even better without the orange-red tint over them. And then I enjoyed Clark interacting with Alfred. I think
I like that.
the weird interaction when Cyborg's like seeing the future. I think when Darkseid's walking up to him about ready to put his hand on him, I think that looked like it was ripped straight from Man of Steel, and the CGI looked terrible. I enjoyed the Superman fights with Steppenwolf. It's great to see how just why he was the protector of the world and why the bell rang for the mother boxes to wake up. It made sense. I wish he wasn't that OP, but that's makes him hard to connect.
The OPness, doesn't it come from him having the black suit? I know they don't explain that in the movie, but
it could. Yeah, I don't know because I don't think that suit works the same as it did in Death in Return.
Okay.
I think Death in Return, he's still trying to gain sun rays, but in this time he like flies up straight into the sun before he goes fights.
Wait, Ronnie, you don't know why he was super OP?
No, I was saying
it comes from a simple 2-word phrase of why he was OP. Plot device.
Okay. Good gosh, Owen. Okay.
No, I think real quick to add on to yours, Joe. I really like that kind of partiness he brought when he kind of stepped in to save Cyborg with the when the axe was coming to fall on him. Where it's just him and his little cocky smile looking at Steppenwolf saying, "Not impressed." Like that just felt super Superman.
Yeah, that felt. There's a scene in the theatrical cut where he comes in and starts punching him, and he goes, "I'm a big fan of truth, and also a big fan of justice," and then just hauls one off on him, and I would be okay if that one stuck around. Okay, I'll move on to Batman really quick. I think this Batman does not top BVS Batman for me. I think there's still some good moments in there. The fight choreography is nowhere near as good, and it makes him just...
He seems so short.
He seems short and slow.
Yeah.
So
he was so clunky, dude.
Yes,
he looked like it was
he didn't
way
turn
too
his head.
big, and like
he couldn't back out the driveway.
He never turned his head. I was
dude.
watching.
It's like
he always had to rotate shoulders to look at people in the costume. He was like.
Well, I mean, have you seen when
like,
Alfred and him hold the cowl?
And it like slows you down a lot.
Yeah.
That was a Dark Knight reference for anybody who missed that one. Okay. I still think I would be really down to see Ben Affleck and Deathstroke come back for an HBO, and Joe Manganiello come back for an HBO Max series just to see them duke it out. I think his Batman is a lot cooler in the Nightmare sequence, but we'll get to the Nightmare elements of it all in a little bit. Is there any more? There's one character that I want to touch. Yeah, there's two then. Let's talk about Deathstroke. What do we think of Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke?
I liked it a lot. I think he looks great in the suit. I think the voice that he puts on not even that big of a voice, it's just kind of his voice, but I just really liked his interpretation of the character so far.
Owen?
For the little bit we saw him.
Lex Luthor, dude. Well, who the fuck was casting Lex Luthor for that? Oh my god. Dude, he looks like a fucking theater kid in high school pretending to be Lex Luthor on like a fucking school spirit week day, dude. He looked... Dude, his voice was so fucking high. Like, who even was that? Who cast him?
Okay, Owen does not like Jesse Eisenberg. Oh my gosh.
Usually like completely bald, but you can easily tell that he just has a really short buzz cut, that guy, because they got like some guy in his like 20s or something. Dude, he looks so bad.
I just want to let you know that he was in Batman vs Superman. He wasn't just cast for this, Owen. Just FYI. You've missed that.
Batman vs Superman sucks. So.
Well, to you it may suck, but you've never seen it, and I enjoy the movie. But that's neither here nor there. I enjoyed Deathstroke in both scenes, even though he only had one line in the Nightmare sequence.
2 lines.
He looks like a really skinny kid joining the army, and he like just got to like basic training.
Good lord. Okay, Owen. Oh my, Owen, you gotta stop. You're being too harsh.
Awful. He sounds awful. Why?
I guess I gotta let it out because I will only defend Jesse Eisenberg, so I guess I gotta field both sides. So
I'm in the middle of it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was especially bad.
He didn't.
I laughed so hard when I saw him as Lieutenant acting as Lex Luthor. It was it was too funny.
Well, do you know who's the younger brother in 2.5 Men, or the one that's got a kid?
Ashton Kutcher?
No, before him, Charlie Sheen, and then John Cryer. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
John Cryer's Lex Luthor in the Arrowverse, so just I'll let y'all think about that. Think about him as bald and with like a goatee.
All right, I have seen
He's
that.
Lex Luthor in the Arrowverse.
Goatee. Does Lex Luthor ever have a goatee?
Well, he does now. And he may have a beard. Whatever. That's neither
I
here
don't
nor
even
there.
care for Lex Luthor that much. He just looks so bad for him.
Ronnie, tell us what you think about Jared Leto's Joker in the Nightmare sequence. As our resident Joker fanatic, tell me what you think.
No, I'm kidding. I think it's still Jared Leto's Joker, just knocked down a little bit, like in terms of like extravagance per se for whatever extravagance he took in Suicide Squad. So I'm not I'm not crazy about it, but I'm definitely glad they
change
toned.
of grills in the apocalypse.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad they toned that down a little bit and kind of got more to that more menacing aspect or kind of mocking aspect of Joker per se. So I feel like they improved on his character a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's still Jared Leto Joker, which I'm not crazy about, but I definitely don't dislike it as much as I did in Suicide Squad. I would say it went from dislike to like I'm okay with it.
I would say I'm relatively in the same place. The first time I watched it, it really took a lot out of the Nightmare sequence for me. The just absolute pregnant pauses in between when he was talking. I was like, wait, you gonna finish a sentence, bro? Second time watching it, though, it wasn't as bad for some reason. I don't know. Some things were improved in the second viewing and some things weren't. So it was really weird watching that the second time. Oh, and do you have any interesting thoughts to say about Jared Leto's Joker? No? Maybe?
I mean, he's the Joker.
You okay with him? You want to tell me that he's a college student again, or
seemed? No? I think he's good.
Oh, okay.
He looked fine looked like Joker. Yeah,
he was decent in this.
What do you think?
Well done.
Yeah,
the moments they was
honestly, I just in talking in general, I think the you could do something with what Ayer was going with in that interpretation of the Joker, because Joker always has these like different identities. He's been the anarchist in The Dark Knight Rises. He's been the clown prince of crime in like the animated series. He's been the foil to Batman and the Killing Joke. He had it's not the best, but he takes on different personalities. He can be very distinct in his representations, and I think there could be a place for him to be represented in that hip hop type, like gold chains and all of that. Mobster, I guess, would be the best. It was what I could see it was trying to get at, but it fell flat, and I think this stripped back the extra layers, as we said. Oh god, what did I say?
No, I'm laughing at Sarah singing Chicken Wing, Hot Dog, and Bologna as she's running around.
So yeah, I think it stripped him back more, and we got a more toned down apocalyptic Joker. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about Ryan Choi as kind of the other scientist in Star Labs. Did anybody have any thoughts on that? Did he think it was cool for a supporting character?
I thought it was cool. Once it clicked in my head, I was like, why does Ryan Choi sound like a familiar name? And then I realized who it was because I was so used to the whole Ray Palmer thing. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. I feel like the personality he's exuding as the character is really well done. It would give for a promising act of the Atom later on if he ever does get some kind of film or some kind of additional role as that. But I liked it. It was cool.
Yeah, it made me... A lot of this movie makes me think about what the original plan was for this universe before everything went really just upside down. and it all makes a lot of sense in a weird way.
I feel like it helped me make this movie feel like it was truly a part of the DC universe to some extent, because we're seeing these characters who are yet to become these heroes, just living their lives without knowing where they could be.
Yeah,
or end up becoming.
Actually trying to do something, unlike the last one.
Because like
explosions.
I'm gonna go off on a rant here for a second, and so if you think about where we were or when this movie was originally supposed to come out in 2017, you had Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel were the only ones that had come before it. Wonder Woman was coming out that summer, or the following summer. No, maybe it had come out the summer before. It was the summer before
it came out.
Yeah, Wonder Woman came out in June. Justice League, so it was all three of them. They had all had their solo films, and their solo films, you may not have liked them or whatever, but they were setting up the big what? No, okay.
I don't see Batman versus Superman as a Batman solo film.
I don't see it either, but that's his introduction. So what do you want me to call it? Do you want me to call him the introduction film for Batman?
Really?
You don't have the energy today to deal with this, do you?
Yeah. Well, then you would also be the introduction film for Wonder Woman.
Nick wants to say that the movie was okay.
Okay, let me get back to my point. So we had these three films that were coming beforehand. You were then going to have this Justice League film. This Justice League film was then going to set up a series of films in between Justice League 1 and 2, 3/2A, whatever you want to call it. In that time, we were supposed to have either another Wonder Woman... No, I don't think you were supposed to have another Wonder Woman film. You were supposed to have a Flash and Cyborg film. You were supposed to have a Batman film. A Green Lantern film. Aquaman, and maybe a Man of Steel 2. I can't remember off the top of my head if that one was hit or miss. Green Lantern Corps, we find out in this that they would have been around. Warner Brothers didn't want Zack to use them. He actually recorded footage to use in this, and they told him not to use it. You have the Flash and Cyborg, which they appear to have been trying to set up a little duo thing. You have the Batman, which there are hints at Riddler in the original BVS, and there's talk that Adam Driver could have been the Riddler. And then you hear about the stuff that Ryan Choi was supposed to be the Atom in his own Chinese-centric film, that it was like, there's a lot of things Zack was trying to do, and he just didn't get the chance to pull it off yet, and it makes me irritated because you think about where we're at now, where it's like the original Justice League is absolutely panned. All of the hype that some fans had from Batman vs Superman was totally gone by that point. I mean, Ronnie's the best case in point for that. We all went... I remember sitting in the theater for BVS, and we were all kind of hyped coming out of it with the Nightmare sequence and Flash showing up, that we were excited for Justice League. I remember that was my most hyped movie in 2017. You had Wonder Woman, Justice League, Thor Ragnarok, and
I liked Wonder Woman too.
I can't remember. There was a third superhero movie that we were supposed to get that year, and Justice League was my most hyped film.
Was it Spider-Man?
It's Spider-Man: Homecoming. Sounds right. So I then see Justice League. All my hype falls apart. We then see Aquaman and Shazam come out. They're successful in their own right, but they have no real larger ties. Shazam's the closest one that has any larger ties to the outside universe, and they couldn't even Photoshop Henry Cavill's head on top of that. And then you get to see, after that, we come around to Wonder Woman 1984 after taking Birds of Prey and the Wonder Woman. I forget about Suicide Squad because that movie is dog water. And there's no coherent nature to it. And we've talked about this on this podcast time and time again. We'll talk about it week after week, I'm sure, as long as stuff keeps coming out. But there is no real cohesion to what is going on. And I understand we're leaning into the multiverse of it all with the Flash movie and Robert Pattinson's Batman film being on a separate Earth. But it's like...
The Joker movie.
The Joker movie... It just makes me think about if Zack was allowed to finish his vision, would the same complaints that everybody has about the DC universe not even really being a universe still exist? Like, granted, I understand that that you are the prime example of some people not liking these films, but could there been a chance for you that, say, this version of Justice League comes down, but it's pared down to 3 hours, or 250? Is there a chance that following this, if it's edited well, you come out, you've enjoyed it, you haven't seen the original Justice League, and then following that you get Aquaman, following that you get a Shazam film, following that a little later down the line you get a Cyborg and Flash film? You're not tying into Flashpoint, you're just the two of them running around doing cool things together. And then you get a Batman film with Riddler. And then maybe you get a Man of Tomorrow Superman film. You get a Green Lantern Corps film, and then we come back for Justice League 2, where we are revisiting the points that Zack leaves of Darkseid coming back. Would there not have been a chance for that to have worked for you?
That would have.
Because for me, it would work.
See, it frustrates me now because I was having similar, as we were discussing this, I was having similar thoughts about, we were saying something along the lines of, I can't remember, but it was like him trying to establish the universe. I can't remember, but it was like, nothing ever took hold in me. And I don't know. I from what you said, yes, I would give that the chance. Okay, there we go.
Is there a better would that have worked better than what we have now? Do you think that could have worked better for you?
But taking it at face value with what take across Justice League, how many chances does Zack get? Man of Steel, Man
of Steel is the most publicly the most liked out of all of them.
Best one that was like, you lose it more with the next one. This one would probably be at the same level of how people enjoyed it, or even more on similar level to it. But it's never it never grabs hold. You have a hand, but it's not like, it's like a high school football receiver grabbing the ball compared to like an NFL. Like when an NFL receiver grabs the ball, they have the ball. High school, it's jumbly.
I'm following.
So how long do you let the ball jumble? I don't know if the high school receiver ever grabs hold of the ball so tight that it grabs hold of the audience like that.
Do you think the jumbling for you comes from BVS or comes from Justice League?
Or does it come from Man of Steel?
What does it just come from the start, or is it all the way through?
Did you feel this way during Man of Steel, Nick? The first time you watched it?
I've been pretty indifferent with all the DC movies. So that's okay. I think indifferent to good. Like, they're good movies. I would never go out and call them horrible or anything. Okay. I enjoyed myself. It was 2 hours. I get to hang out with friends, eat popcorn, and drink soda. So
in a weird way, this movie to me is actually what, like, in Joey, like the way you described the whole, does it grab a hold of you back or like something, or at least keep you there? If anything,
that was me trying to talk through it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I get you. Ironically, this movie is actually the one that kind of makes me re-hyped for what DC, and I know that the threads it leaves may not go into full fruition, but had I seen this movie, had this been the movie I watched, like when I would have watched Justice League, because the reason I fell off the train was because I heard how bad Justice League was. I'd seen some relative clips of like what's in it, and it just didn't look like a film like I would have wanted to see, and that's when I left the DC train for the movies. Don't get me wrong, I still love DC as its own comic like franchise. It's just the movies itself. It's after Justice League and seeing the reception that got, hearing all the negative things, I just didn't feel like that was something that I wanted to see. And then from that point on is when I stopped really watching the DCU films with with a religious kind of motivation. Like,
Yeah.
back then, like in the state, like I never stopped that with Marvel. Like it's not like I grew out of it because I definitely kept keeping up with Marvel. It's just that after that Justice League and seeing what that was, and I heard that Aquaman and Shazam was good, but that motivation to be a part of that world was no longer there. And ironically, this movie brought me back into that. Even if it was for a day or two, even to this day, I want to rewatch that and relive that experience because it's probably my favorite of the Snyderverse. Maybe people would disagree with that, saying that Man of Steel is their favorite, but for what this does to me, it brought me back. Even though I know it's not gonna maybe even see the light of day, what the plan would have been.
Yeah, because for me, I understand why people could not like this. But, I mean, this goes back to the conversation you and I have off camera all the time of, like, think of 2012 is when Avengers comes out. But that's also the end of the Dark Knight trilogy. So Dark Knight Rises comes out that same summer. What do you have coming out 2013 to try and start a universe? You have Man of Steel. but you're trying to get to a point where you're getting a Justice League movie out quicker than the next Avengers movie. Which is what their goal is. They're trying to get their big team up on the silver screen. So how do you do that? You hand that to somebody who's not going to do all these things beforehand, like we had in Marvel Phase 1. You have somebody like Zack who puts out a Man of Steel. It's a really self-contained film for the most part. He'll talk about it later, how there are references to Aquaman and Martian Manhunter and LexCorp and Wayne Tower and all that in there. And they're just little tiny Easter eggs to grow into something bigger. And there's a pod open that could reference that Supergirl is out in the world, we just don't know it. Then you get to BVS, which is trying to do a lot of groundwork to start this universe. It really is. It's lifting a lot of heavy weight. And that's 2016, which comes out... Or no, is it 2015? 2015, 2016, regardless. It's around the same time you get Avengers Age of Ultron, which is 2015. And then you get Captain America Civil War in 2016. So you're getting these two... Like, Marvel is really hitting the ground running at this point. And DC, Zack's trying to prop this all up. You got a 2-hour and 45-minute movie with Batman and Superman fighting each other, which is gonna bring people in no matter what. It's a storyline that people will buy. It's one of the most popular comic book lines. One of the most rewatched things in the animated shows. When Batman and Superman are together, that's where some stuff starts to get going. And then you get hints of the Nightmare World. You get scenes that show Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman, and then you get Wonder Woman pops up, and Wonder Woman steals the show of that movie at the end. That it's like you get a lot of groundwork going there, and then Suicide Squad, not really a good movie, but it's not. It's got some Ben Affleck in it, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's so tied to this that it's like. The ship is really sinking, at least from the fan point of from my fan perspective, because I really enjoyed Batman vs Superman. We were having this conversation last night that it was like I remember sitting in the theater with all of us back when we used to be able to go to theaters and it would be this big group of people and seeing Flash show up for that nightmare sequence will probably be hands down one of my favorite things that I've ever seen in the theater. That the moment that it feels in me, and then you get that nightmare sequence with the Omega symbol scorched into the earth. And this is around the same time that Injustice is starting to pop off, and it's like I felt a momentum that we were going toward. And then you see the theatrical cut of Justice League that it totally falls apart in. No, okay. But and Aquaman, it's a fine solo movie. It sets up an Aquaman 2 fine. It is what it is. It's enjoyable to watch. Shazam is also enjoyable to watch. It's got some fun references to the Marvel universe or the DC universe at large outside of it. But they don't feel connected. Even though there's a cameo at the end of Shazam where it's a Superman body double from the neck down that he shows up to have lunch with the kids, and it's like that's cool, but it doesn't pay off that we've seen Superman come back. So it's this it's this bright, cheery Superman coming in, and we haven't seen that. It doesn't feel earned. And then, I don't know, because it gets me frustrated because now I'm looking ahead at what they're announcing. We have this Flash movie that's going to try and reinvigorate what we've got when this movie has reinvigorated it already. Where it's like, we're going to be treating... Warner Brothers and Walter Hamada are treating this as cul-de-sac. This is the last thing. But you have... Justice League is the theatrical version. And it's like... That theatrical version got nobody hyped. There are interviews with employees inside Warner Brothers that thought that movie was garbage. And they still let it out. And you're going to treat that as your theatrical... That's your canon for this going forward. That's what Shazam 2 is going to interact with eventually. That's what... Wonder Woman 3 when that comes out, what the Flash movie, because that's our next big DC movie after Suicide Squad. Even to some extent, what Suicide Squad is going to react with, because that's the same version of Harley Quinn, that it's like... I get frustrated because these are the characters that I care about more than Marvel. I love Marvel because they're succeeding on all fronts. You hear me rant and rave about this. They have never proven me wrong.
Yeah.
And until the day they do... I will be in their corner. But DC's my thing. I love DC. Ronnie can attest to this, that it's like... I am such a hopeless homer for this, that I want this to pull off so much. That it's like, even when Ronnie fell off the train, I was telling him, Justice League, it's not great, not bad, but it's still fun. And then I'm telling him, Aquaman, go watch it. I'm telling him, come see. And it's like... I don't know where I'm going. I'm just ranting at this point.
No, I get it. I think with Aquaman, I saw a review or someone talk about Justice League, and maybe I'll see if this holds true for me when I see it, because I'm yet to watch Aquaman. But someone said somewhere, I don't know where, I forget where now, but someone said that having that Volko scene with Aquaman in the Zack Snyder's cut really helps kind of give an idea of where the start of the Aquaman solo film where that's supposed to be headed, or like what the goal of that is to some extent. Yeah. Which I feel like can kind of answer a little bit to your whole, does this feel connected? And I can see it not being connected to Justice League because of how apparently Volko was not in that cut.
I don't remember.
But when we have it here,
I think he was,
when we have it here, we get to see that kind of interconnection between this world. So what I'm trying to say is, I get the whole map you just pointed out, Joe. I'm on board with you with that. Like, if I saw this movie when we got Justice League, I would have been even more hyped for what was left to come for DC. But really, it was the flop of Justice League that made me drop off.
And
I feel like you have a right to be frustrated in the same way that I have some frustration knowing that this never came out in the first place until now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that my frustration stems around from what Zach has talked about. And do you have a question?
Your frustration stems
from you? No, it doesn't stem from you. You're the conduit of where I take it out. But like, it stems from why there's this movement on Restore the Snyderverse and why this damn movie has trended. It's trended on socials all weekend, which is no, it's nothing to laugh at. This movie came out on Thursday at
motivation.
I don't even know what you said, but it came out on Thursday at 3 a.m, and you had servers were breaking to watch this movie. Like, the movement that is this thing cannot be undersold. That it's, I get the argument of like, this is too dark and it's not my characters. It's not what I would have done, but this is what we got. So I'm gonna get behind it because these are my characters showing up on the screen. This is a version of Batman that I feel is a badass. Wonder Woman, badass. That it's like, you can see that with how fans are reacting to this, that Ben Affleck is some people's Batman. Gal Gadot is universally Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
so many people have attached to Gal Gadot, and that is their spirit warrior. They're gonna battle cancer through that. That it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's like, I hope.
It was something I said. That
nothing triggered you. You didn't. This is just. I feel like this is my place to say it. I'm in a safe space that, like.
No need to see that.
Huh?
I brought my feet on screen. No one needed to see that.
You started the podcast with your toes on screen.
Yeah,
but...
my apologies.
Just block it out with two little dark
Put the feet back on.
No.
I was kind of focusing on that.
Okay, like
Owen?
this is where I get to that.
Bad
We
Owen.
see the Darkseid scene. For me, Darkseid steals the show with this movie. Like Cyborg is great, but it's like anytime Darkseid pops up on screen, that's my Thanos. That like I had no like Thanos is like you see him pop up at the end of Avengers, and you're like, that is cool. I know that's hinting at something greater, but it's like.
Darkseid just feels so menacing, though.
Yes,
like from the jump.
And I don't know why that is what it is for me. But this, like, Nick and I had this conversation after we finished watching the movie last night, and then I was like, Marvel will never be able to pull. Like, Spider-Man's probably the only character that Spider-Man 3 has a chance that it could have a moment for me that it'll make me lose my crap. But like, DC. I think every time I go into a DC film, there is a chance that something is going to do it for me. That this is my fandom that I am all in on. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Marvel, but this is my thing. And when I see Darkseid and the hints that we have, and the fact that the Speed Force is used in such a cool, unique way in their first outing, that it's like, what? And then we see Kilowog's dead body. And then we see that end nightmare sequence that I'm like, you're telling me I'm never going to see this realized on live action? I'm never going to see... I'm not going to see this version of Darkseid pop up and use the Omega Beams and have these... Like, it just does... It feels like I'm being robbed of something.
We saw that one clip in Atlantis with Darkseid and the foreshadow.
Yeah.
That looked amazing.
Yeah, did it not? Oh, look, Nick gave a compliment. Let's go.
Gave a sarcastic compliment.
That was sarcasm.
I don't know. I just get frustrated because I see what this movie is playing at, and I'm like, what? Here, Sarah.
Cheddar wrap and a triple cheeseburger.
Yeah. Cheeseburger trifecta and a buffalo chicken ranchero wrap.
Make that
okay, so
I don't remember where I was.
See,
I just get in a thing where I start ranting.
So like I hate to say it, but the universe has lost me. I remember watching the Wonder Woman intro to the first movie and seeing that animated opening for the first time and losing my stuff.
Huh? What are you talking about?
The cartoon intro that we grew up on of the characters all lining up.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was the first one that we saw that in.
Oh, you mean when DC redid their intro? Their intro?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm following you. I wasn't following you to start.
I have that moment of the same attachment Joseph has to those characters, but they've lost me because they haven't fulfilled to what I hold those characters to be. Neither of us were the biggest Marvel fans growing up. But the fact of the matter is, though, they've built them for me. I'm attached to Bucky. I'm attached to Falcon. I'm attached to Cap, so on. Groot. The Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor are like some of my favorite movies. And I had no connection to them previously. I grew up on DC. But they've grown so much on me. And I don't know, I'm just done getting hurt by DC at this point of like, it doesn't seem to, I don't know. I started ranting there again.
I see what you're talking about. Go ahead, Ryan.
I feel you. I
just want to say, I get where Nick is coming from with that sentiment. Like I said, like I was the same way, like I love DC. And the whole Marvel being consistent, if anything, that's something that made me grow my appreciation for Marvel, but it's not something that ever took away from my appreciation of DC. I feel like when I think of DC, I don't just think of the movies, and I know you probably don't either, but it's like definitely something that can leave an impact on you when you see these movies and how they're portrayed. And so for me, it's not more or less kind of like these flop of DC movies takes away from it. It's more just like Marvel's success only brings me enjoyment of Marvel itself. It makes me want to see more DC. Obviously, I still want to see more DC, but I don't think having a flop of a movie like Justice League is something that's not gonna just it's not kind of something that makes me just let go of it the way I did with Justice League. With Justice League, I saw how bad that was, so that's when I was like, maybe the movies just aren't for me in terms of DC fans. So I'm just gonna stick to what I like. The animated movies, the animated shows, the comics, their lore that's already predestined there, and that's what I'm gonna keep them as. So now that I see something that has some fruition with DC, which is this movie, because part of the beauty of DC to me is that more, I wouldn't say grim. It does have that more grim aesthetic, but it's also just the idea of these being very more mythological heroes that are like myths to man.
And I feel God like struggling with the problems of men when Marvel is men struggling with the powers of God.
Exactly. And I feel like this movie was able to perfectly encapsulate that to some extent to me. And in a way that the previous 3 installments before it, I mean, you could say Wonder Woman had, but this one really did it for me in a way that I had not seen a DC movie do it for me yet. And that's what kind of makes me fall in love with this movie. Even if it's not the same Batman that I'm used to in the comics, even if it's not the same Wonder Woman or same Flash that I'm used to in the comics, I'm not new to the multiverse. I'm not new to there being different interpretations of these characters. So as long as these characters somewhat resemble what they're supposed to be, I'm fine with seeing this interpretation of it and seeing it come to fruition, which is where my kind of interest for this DC universe lies.
Yeah. I don't know.
If we want to talk Marvel multiverse, there's a universe where Wanda and Quicksilver, they're a little too friendly, and that's in the comics, and that's people didn't like that. But that's what you get when you get into the multiverse, and I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just another attachment of that multiverse. It's not the core Marvel universe. Characters are very different, but they're from in the comics too. Sure, not some are as drastic as maybe Justice League, but it's still different. You can't say that the Thor we're getting in the Marvel movies is the same Thor we have in the comics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
but I would say we've seen his arc. Like when you go, it's hard to take comics as a whole and then judge that against one arc of comics, which is the movies. Overall, yes, Thor is definitely old speak, very ancient, I guess, of the way it comes across of medieval. But when we see this arc of Thor, like, yeah, it's different, but it doesn't mean it's not Thor. I don't know.
I feel like the way I'm trying to say it is the first Thor that we got in Thor 1 and Thor in the Dark World, that's very Thor. That's like classic, like what you would think of Thor. And ironically enough, I wasn't really a big fan of that. I liked it. It was cool. Yeah. It could get boring, especially with the Dark World. And that was saved when they took his character into a different direction that, albeit still stems from the comics, just a completely different storyline that is not in no way related to the way that the classic comic book media fan would perceive Thor, where you got the shaved head, you got his more God of Thunder form, forget the hammer, he's powerful in and of itself. And I feel like that dip into a different interpretation of the character is what brought him back to life for me in the Marvel universe, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so it's kind of this thing where I'm not gonna judge Zack Snyder's Batman for the way it is because it's not my Batman that like I'm used to in the headcanon of the comics. Because like I said, I'm used to the Marvel multiverse stuff. So if it's a different interpretation, it's a different interpretation. As long as it doesn't kill the character for what it is, then I'm fine with it. I guess that's kind of the message I'm just trying to say. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's probably something that I need to not work on, but like be consistent in my opinions of. I definitely
need to work on it.
Yeah, you can shed it.
Like,
I can see what you're saying there of like with the Thor and then with the Batman. Yeah, but I've taken more problem with the Batman or the Supermans of them not being those characters, and then therefore I don't like them. And when with the Marvel comics, I'm not as aware of the origins, so therefore what I've learned with the movies, I've become accustomed to, so I see them as my proper. When I've grown differently with the DC characters and the movies are different, so then I don't see them. So I definitely I can't disagree with you on that point.
Like one thing I could say for Spider-Man is one of my favorite interpretations of Spider-Man is the Spectacular Spider-Man show made way back when. It had like 2 seasons, got canceled way too early. That's one of my favorite interpretation. But does Marvel's Spider-Man do that? No, it doesn't. It's actually very different. Like the roles that he plays with Ned. We have no Harry. We have no like Oscorp from the jump. It's not a very classic Spider-Man, but it's the Spider-Man that fits the MCU, which is why I like it, because it fits the world it's in. And in the same light, Justice League's version of Batman felt way too jokey, way too lighthearted compared to what we saw in BVS. But this Batman coming off of BVS feels like it's kind of a direct flow from where he was going in personality-wise from BVS
Justice
to this
League
movie.
took,
I feel like
took 4 steps when this one only took the first step of a lighter
exactly.
Batman.
And I feel like that's something that I really appreciate about this movie. It feels like these characters are going in a linear direction. They're not just jumbled all over the place just for the sake of making money, you know?
Yeah. The complicated thing for me about my relationship with these movies versus my relationship with Marvel movies is the only character I had an attachment to is similar to Ronnie, where it's Spider-Man. That it's like Spider-Man.
Yep.
That was my Marvel dude. He was the one that I watched the animated shows for. He was the one that I had the cartoons for. We have the action figures. We have family little pictures around Spider-Man and stuff. But on the other side, I was always a Batman fan. I watched everything I could get my hands on. You and I have memories attached to, like, for some reason there's a reason in my head of like a Justice League or a Justice League Unlimited episode with a haircut. Like, I've got these things are attached to core memories for me, and it's so.
I came home watching a DC movie after Sarah was born.
Like yeah, it's.
Joey and I went to the midnight release of Batman Arkham Knight.
Yeah, like these
and then
these are
I was
things.
at Nana's house already asleep because I wasn't allowed to be up till midnight.
You were there. We slept over for a week to play this game.
I know. I remember. I never played. It annoyed me.
Exactly.
It's just these. I don't know. Because Nick and I have this conversation all the time. Of like, if I were to be given the keys to the kingdom, if I were the one to build this is not how I would build it. But it's like, I see what's happening. I see that this Man of Steel that we get introduced to Man of Steel, it's his first time out. He's got a relative understanding of his powers, but he's never had to fight anybody. Like, his first fight is with someone who is also coincidentally has his powers. So it's going to cause a lot of destruction and a lot of mayhem, which sets up a really interesting conflict in Batman vs Superman, where this Batman he's old. He's 40. He's close to Dark Knight Returns type deal, where it's like I hate the government. I don't like things. I'm not like, I'm a vigilante, but I'm a vigilante that it's like almost borderline that I'm a criminal too. That this Batman has dealt with the deaths of who knows how many Robins at the hands of the Joker, that this Batman has turned his back on the world and he's going through it. It's him and Alfred on their crusade for justice. And then Batman vs Superman is the turning point for Batman. At the end of that movie, he's flipped a script. He's back to joining humanity with Diana. They bring each other out of it through the sacrifice of Clark, and they're going to go on this thing in Justice League to recruit these heroes to defend the bell that has been rung by the death of Superman. And it all makes sense to me. I forgave that it was a darker or a more grim interpretation of these characters, and it's maybe because I was at the age where I started liking a lot of darker stuff. That it was I wasn't watching all the animated shows. Huh?
Sorry.
I wasn't watching all the animated shows all the time. That I was leaning into some heavier sci-fi. That it was
we like people getting killed and things.
I don't know. It felt like there was consequences. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt like there was consequences.
You became aware of how stories are told, so you liked the arcs. You liked the progression of people in your stories.
Sure.
I feel like that's one thing I can give to Zack Snyder's 3 movies in this world so far, because, you know, they all tie into each other so neatly when presented the way he wants to present them. You know, at the beginning of BVS, we see the end of Man of Steel, and we see Bruce's reaction to that. At the end of BVS, we see Superman's death, and in this movie, we start with the reaction of that. It feels like each movie is flowing into each other, literally in a linear path, seeing how this story is unfolding. And I feel like the overall story is just to get to this apocalypse brought upon by Darkseid. And that's what I want to see. You know,
Yeah.
this just feels like a big comic story for Darkseid with these characters, and that's what we're building up to.
So,
and I wish we got that.
I think this is probably the perfect segue to start talking about some of the threads that are left hanging here. And I think we'll probably close with a conversation on what we think is the future. And if there's a chance that in the next week or two something changes in DC. But I think it's probably best that we start talking about the threads that are left hanging. I think let's work through the middle, like, premonition type deal, and then we'll talk about the nightmare sequence at the end. So let's start with.
Aren't those pretty much the? Can't those talked about?
I mean, it's tied together. I was just saying that. Let's keep that as the starting point of the discussion, and then move forward. So we see a dead Wonder Woman, which I've seen some really cool theories about of. That I'll get into when we start talking about it, and we see a Superman who looks like he could be holding the corpse of a dead Lois Lane, and then we see Darkseid murder Arthur Curry in Atlantis. So, what?
That he killed Aquaman?
Yeah, you missed.
He stabbed him with the trident.
He stabbed him with his trident, and then the helmet comes off, and you see the hair flowing.
But that's
and then Mara later on.
All the Atlanteans have long hair.
So I did not know it was Mara Aquaman. Later, going what he did to Arthur.
On God, I didn't make the connection.
Okay. Well,
couldn't tell between the blacks and the blues and the water scene. I'm being honest.
No, I understand. You and I both have similar thoughts about the CGI on that I don't think it looks great. But
there was some cropping on this movie that there just wasn't shadows.
So, Owen, as you don't have a very tight connection to this as we do. Is there any thread there that you thought was interesting to see if it were to be pursued in a future story?
I mean, I guess the Green Lantern one.
Yeah. The dead Green Lantern,
mainly because you guys remember that weird, kind of CGI? Yeah, the dead guy, the one that got killed in the old war thing. And you see the that was kind of cool. So I got this weird memory between the CGI Green Lantern cartoon that got it only had a few episodes, that thing.
It ran for one season. 13 episodes, something like that. Yep.
The one with the AI shit?
Yeah. It was really weird. I don't know. I just remember that.
It just connects. Okay. So Owen wants to see more Green Lantern from that.
Quick tap in from what Owen just said. This has nothing to do with our thread thing. But that's another thing that I feel like made this feel like it's a part of the DC universe. We don't have to be told what a Green Lantern is. We just see one get killed. We see the ring do its thing, and so it's like, oh, that's there. It exists. And I think that's something that I also appreciated from the movie.
Things that they
kind of just making the world feel more expansive.
Just mention them as aliens. Cool. Very.
Okay, Ronnie, do you have a thread there that you wanna touch on too, or
I mean, the biggest thread is the whole what happens with Superman and why he goes bad. It feels like they were gonna take maybe a very Injustice route, maybe not exactly in the same way that Injustice did it.
Yeah.
Probably with a Darkseid or some kind of other way, but that's a story that I really love, and I think that being able to see that kind of story told in that way is something that I would have really liked, and I would still like to see, just because it's one of my favorite DC stories, the Injustice storyline. I think it is probably one of my favorite storylines in general. So that's the only thread that I really like, which is pretty much the biggest thread left behind.
Yeah, it's the overarching thread.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have a thought, or do you want to?
Well, I have to say it. They specifically talked about there was no Kryptonians or lanterns on this planet. Why are they worried about the lanterns? They just seem to be cannon fodder. They're just killed. They do nothing. You tell us
there's only one.
There's two.
You
see Kilowog dead, and
to be fair to that discussion, have you seen the way Hal was treated in the DC animated movie? I forget which one was Justice League War.
Yeah.
You see how bodied he got by just a couple of parademons straight off the jump.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I couldn't not think about it while watching the movie. I was like, they said they were concerned about two things, about an invasion type thing of either Clark or lanterns. And any lantern that we saw, they didn't seem to have any oomph behind them. But
I mean, we saw only one fight, and it was a long time ago.
Lantern.
Yeah,
and he was definitely not the most powerful being there.
I know.
I think scaling is
okay. I am.
No, I agree.
Only like most of them are just like soldiers, dude. So like,
yeah,
like,
I know. I'm picking on it to pick on it.
You expect?
I didn't play
like Hal Jordan has as much as I wanted premier title.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw it, I kind of thought in the back of my head, I was like, "Damn, this dude's probably gonna get shitted on, just like the other Lanterns in the comics." And he did. He got grabbed, arm got cut off, probably got decapitated too. Who knows what? He probably got chopped in a bunch of pieces.
Yeah, Darkseid ain't being nice.
I don't care. I saw. You know what I did see though? I saw that ring. Go to Darkseid, taunt him, and then go away.
Yeah, that was fun. That
seems dark. Yeah. What'd you expect?
I mean, I would have thought that's something that I would have wanted to see, and Zack gave it to me. So,
yeah,
I think probably out of those three, if I were to pick one of those three scenes that were the coolest to me, I would say the Wonder Woman thing, because I think it sets up that at some point she returns home, and has an adventure there, which I would assume leads into more Greek mythology, which is what I hope Wonder Woman 3 does. Yes.
How's that gonna happen?
How's what?
All the gods are dead.
No, not all the gods are dead.
Did we not? Ares killed the gods. She killed Ares.
Okay.
What am I missing?
I haven't watched the original movie in a while, so I'd have to remember which. There are specific gods that are dead, and even if you're not going to talk to gods, Medusa's still a thing. You can still fight.
Okay.
The Titans. I think
John just meant Greek myths.
I know. I'm picking on things to pick on things, but it's like when you think of Greek mythology, do you go to the Titans first? No, you go to the 12.
No, but there are...
Ronnie, you can shut it.
The theories that are still out there say that Hades is still technically alive.
Okay. Ronnie, can you turn your camera back on?
Said sayonara. I don't know, but like... I think that scene has some cool things that I hope are interpreted into Wonder Woman 3, which appeared to be the original arc. Or in at least a lot of the discourse following Wonder Woman 1984.
Was Patty...
it's good.
Directed by the studio to do another movie in the past?
I don't know. I think that may have been her call.
Okay. I'll leave that there.
I think Wonder Woman 1984 is a mix of a lot of things. That it's a bit of a... I think, again, it's supposed to be an 80s action film. And it's not great. But
was that movie anyways?
It's not great. It's got some moments in it that are fun for the time, but a lot of it is tied around some emotional connections that are really weird, and I don't want to get into it because Ronnie still has to watch the movie at some point. So it's weird. I think a lot of that has some writing things with Patty and Jeff Johns writing on that, and I think Jeff's writing doesn't necessarily translate to the screen. I think he was a great comic book guy. I'm not exactly sure. I have mixed feelings on Jeff because of what Ray Fisher has said about what had happened on Justice League and how Jeff, John Berg, and Walter Hamada are to blame for some of the racist things that were said and done to him. So I have a mixed feeling on that. I don't think Jeff will be writing on the next one. I think the fact that they announced a third one following the first weekend that's out, and that was doing numbers then, but this is doing more numbers, makes me curious to see if after we get off this podcast or come Monday morning or Friday we get an announcement. But we'll see.
I think it comes down to the studio heads, I'll be honest.
Yeah, but I've seen rumors saying that HBO Max is trying to exclusively sign Zack behind closed doors, as well as Netflix is trying to exclusively sign Zack behind closed doors. So,
wait, for him to just make movies?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Army of Dead is his next movie that's coming out, and that's exclusive to Netflix. And apparently, there's an anime. It's a prequel anime, and then
you hear that?
They already want to sign him for a sequel.
Okay, how is this?
So, I think the
what?
Don't worry about it, Owen. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it.
There's an anime coming, Owen. Add it to the list.
Podcast conversation.
The list is already numerous.
I think the next thing to talk about is that nightmare sequence. I think we all should probably just go around and give quick thoughts on that.
14. Actually, no.
Wait, what?
I don't know what Owen's talking about.
Ronnie has been piling up since 2012.
He's still on the anime list. That his backlog of anime that he's got to get to.
So, Ronnie, what did you think of that?
Anime.
Ronnie, what did you think of the nightmare sequence?
Which
this
one?
version.
We're talking about
The final
end.
end.
No. I'm talking.
Are
you talking like Cyborg Vision?
The epilogue.
Or are we talking about
the epilogue?
Epilogue. Okay. I thought it was interesting as hell. I've always been a fan of the whole, heroes working with villains, which is probably why I like the Injustice story so much. You get like a mixed bag of heroes and villains coming together for one big, one big bad, and I feel like that's something I would have loved to see. So kind of getting a hint towards that, kind of this ragtag team where it's Batman, Mera, Cyborg, Flash, Deathstroke, and Joker. That's something I would have really loved to see. So it's something that, just like I said about the thread, builds hype for me to see where that would have gone. So at the end of the day, I think I loved it. I really liked it.
Yeah. Nick, do you have any thoughts on that? What did you think about it?
It definitely creates more interest to see if he was able to get everything out that he wanted out. I think his thing would be judged a lot differently, but because it has to be released in chronological order and there has to be time for reaction to it, I think it's a detriment to him and what he wants his vision to be. But I don't know.
Owen, did you have any thoughts?
I mean, I thought it was cool. I'd be interested to see a film in the future around that timeline thing.
Yeah. I think you are right that if it's one of those things that Greg Miller always talks about, where it's if they just went away for 5 years and they made these movies and then they just all came out, I wonder what the reaction would be. That it was like if there was never a halt, stop, regardless of critical reaction, we have made these movies, these 15, 20 movies for the last 5 years. Here they all go. I think it probably would have worked, but you never know.
But that's just not how.
It's just not how Hollywood works.
Yeah.
For me, the nightmare sequence it's really enjoyable. There's a lot to unpack there. Cyborgs, augmentations, Flash's armored travel suit, the new look for Deathstroke with the mohawk,
I think that was just because Joe had a
mohawk. Joe did have a mohawk at that point. He dyed his hair blue too.
I know. I find
the Jared thing, still hinting at a weird connections between him and Bats, and how Zack's talked about how if this was to come to fruition, there would have been a sequence similar to the Last Supper where they're all sitting around the table, and it tells a lot of things through flashbacks of what happened in that world and how we would have seen what Joker did to whichever Robin he killed, and how Bats lost his mind, and we see the card that he's given ripped up at that when the Justice League thing is falling in the ground. We see the card floating. So there's a lot of really cool stuff at play that I really hope we get to see, because it's not so much about knowing what happens. We could all go back and look at what his original 2015-2016 outline for Justice League 2 and 2A were, and you could see roughly what was going to happen, but for me it's more about seeing. There's a lot of cool visual potential for what that could be, and we'll see. I don't think the book is closed on this quite yet. I think there's a lot of things still up in the air and a lot of factors that are still at play. So I think that leads into the next conversation of where do we think do we think the Snyderverse gets restored in the next couple of weeks following this, or do we think we're all hope is still sitting on the Flash movie? Let's start with Ronnie.
I don't know if it's gonna come in a couple of weeks or months or maybe even a year. Probably would come within a year at least. But I really do hope that seeing the reaction that we're getting now for the Snyder Cut, which, mind you, has been phenomenal. I feel like it's the biggest thing HBO Max has had in terms of like their properties going viral.
Yeah.
In terms
Just wait
of
until Godzilla comes out.
Godzilla. Okay, that's true. That's true.
I'm so excited. That's gonna take. It's just gonna be a popcorn movie. I'm sorry.
But what's it called? Yeah, like that's just something.
Dude, the
that
pandemic special is pretty good.
I feel like that's something that I hope these big executives that helped in the butchering of the original version of this film can see for what this world can bring us and the kind of traction it can bring them, so that hopefully they'll go back, maybe rework some stuff. I don't know if they do or if they will.
I mean, they haven't started. They haven't started shooting Flash yet, so they still technically have time. There are lots of other movies that have been shot while they're being written. So who knows?
So yeah, so that's kind of that's what I hope. I don't know if it'll happen in the next few weeks, but I have big hope per se that it'll happen at some point soon.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not just a comic book, but I'd be okay with that too. So.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. If I have to read a comic book.
He's talked with Jim Lee about if they don't do something, Jim will draw. So
I think it's like a 60-40.
60-40 and
something happens.
Tipping what way though?
Towards Zack. I think
in his favor.
I think it's tipped towards his favor with this.
Yeah.
So
Owen, do you think we see more, or do you think
there's some promise? Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll see more. I mean, comes out when it comes out, news.
Yeah, I mean,
whenever they feel like. I mean, it's not really a way to predict it too well. I mean,
yeah, it's hard to predict this because it's got so many factors at play. Because on top
of the whole history of this stuff is like.
On top of Zack's personal tragedy, I mean, one of the most touching things I've seen about this weekend is that Autumn, the daughter that he lost, she was fine. Like around the time that he was starting to get involved in this, he was getting, she was getting really into his world building and wanted to see him pull this off, and he thinks this would have made her proud. So I think that's it's something to think about. I think he could be motivated in theory to not only via money, but he's left so many cards out on the table. He's given Ray Fisher back the great performance that he had in this movie from the start. I think there's a lot of things that any filmmaker who started would probably want to finish, but it all depends on if this is going to be an uphill battle. And I think that's probably what's going on behind closed doors with negotiations, if they're happening, are him and his wife, Deborah, going through, is this worth it? And probably including in their contracts how much creative control they get to have over the movie and the universe going forward. So I'm hopeful, especially considering the numbers that it's doing, that there's a chance that some of this stuff gets spin-offs on HBO Max. Martian Manhunter, Deathstroke, an Atom series with Ryan Choi. I think there's potential. I'm interested to see where it goes because all the news that we've gotten recently is either Flash-related or Justice League Dark HBO Max type deal. So I'm interested to see what news can come out of this. I don't know. I feel like coming out of this podcast, I feel more down about it than I actually am. I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like I'm just sad now, which is so disappointing.
But... Yeah, no, I get what you mean. When I gave Justice League that kind of like 8.1 borderline 8 rating, that's not a rating that I want to give it from like what I feel. It was more of like a rating of like, can I objectively look at this of like what it's like to be a movie, you know,
Yeah.
or what it did.
More
But
realistic.
after coming out of it, like giving it an 8.1 just doesn't feel like a service to the movie. Like the things that this movie made me feel in terms of a fan, even for the scenes that can be deemed as not good movie making, it's just not like there's nothing bad I want to say about it. Even if there are things that I can critique it on, I don't. It's not worth talking about to me just because of how good it made me feel.
Yeah, to me, it comes.
I feel like,
to me, it comes down to rewatching it the second time last night. I think the first time, a lot of my reaction was comparing the original and thinking about conversations Nick and I had going into it and thinking about criticisms that he had. But the second time, and after we finally just sat down and were going through it in the last, in parts 5 and 6 and the epilogue, a smile never leaves my face. There are moments in that movie that I will be rewatching for probably the rest of my time here on Earth. That these are my favorite characters, and Zack's interpretation of how the Flash uses Speed Force and especially how it's used, will probably go down in my all-time favorite things of how the Flash is done. I think he did a great job giving Cyborg life in this movie and getting him to a point where at the end he's not only is he representative for black people, but he's also representative for disabled people. That a lot of the stuff that I've seen coming out on social media, that people feel represented and empowered by Ray Fisher's performance. So you all know me that I want to see more Ben Affleck and more Henry Cavill. So I'm sure we'll talk more about the state of the DC universe moving forward. But we've talked for almost 2 hours on this, and it was only the 4 of us. So I hope you guys.
Let's make it to 4, Joe. It's like...
No, we can do that some other time. You and I'll sit down and we'll do a commentary. We'll there'll be a running timer down at the bottom, and we'll just sit and watch the movie, and it'll be you and me doing a live com.
I'm down. Yeah. I'm down.
So I want to thank whoever tunes into this. This universe is a lot of our labor of love, and this is what our childhood was grown on. And I hope you enjoyed our discussion about what this movie is to us, what this movie could have been, and a lot of the things that go into it. So please like the video if you have enjoyed. Comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe so you don't miss a beat of us talking about our favorite nerd stuff, because
that you need to know about.
You all know that there's more coming. So # restore the Snyderverse, and see you next time. Peace.